Hi everyone, good morning. I just spent a minute filtering through filters and didn't find one I like, so you're left with my face. Today I'm going to talk about a book called Why People Don't Heal and How They Can. I'm just going to type in here personal responsibility as the topic. Okay, so I'm going to try to pin that. Hi everyone. Okay, so I decided to do a live video because I literally have no idea where, it's kind of just me talking and I don't know how long it's gonna take, so please bear with me, I'm sorry. But I've been having all these thoughts recently about like personal responsibility, and then I started reading this book and it fits so in line, and some of the things she has to say are so, the way she expresses it is just so perfect, and it's like mind blowing. So I wanted to share some of it. So a couple years ago, my husband started following this guy called Jocko. He's a Navy SEAL, ex-Navy SEAL, and he has this mindset that basically you have to take responsibility for like everything in your life, personal responsibility for everything. And like, it doesn't matter the situation, like take responsibility for it. Like you hate your job and your boss is horrible, stop blaming the boss and start looking at like ways you can change your situation, or whatever it is. So like that's kind of his mentality. So that started kind of like coming into my world mentality the past couple years, just because my husband was so into it. And it's kind of like a no excuses mentality, right? Like you create your life and your reactions to life and all this kind of stuff. And so it's just been an interesting thing. Well, I started through my cancer journey getting more interested in like energetic medicine and things like that. And so recently I decided to get this book called Why People Don't Heal and How They Can. Now, my only caveat to this, and I feel like I need to mention this, I am a Christian, and I don't know if she identifies herself as a Christian or not, because she talks about Christianity in here and kind of blends it in with what she's talking about. And it's very interesting, but the reason I feel like commenting on that is because I feel a little weird recommending it if you don't know what your spiritual beliefs are, because I'm someone that can like get really into a theological conversation with you. Like, I know what I believe, I know why I believe it, and like that kind of conversation like fascinates me. But some of her Christian theology in here is not great. Okay, so I just feel like I have to throw that out there. However, I also don't feel like throwing the baby out with the bathwater, because that's not the primary theme of the book. And she has a lot of really amazing things to say. And I'm only like a chapter and a half through, you guys. And I have so many, you probably can't see it, I have so many notes and underlines already in it. Like, and I'm, how many pages? I'm like 40 pages in. So I kind of just wanted to share. So her, how this kind of ties into like the concept of personal responsibility. This is basically like the psychology behind healing, is kind of the first part of it, and like how we can hinder ourselves from healing because of our mentality, and we can choose to sort of stay in this illness, chronic illness, disease mentality because of the attention that it brings us, which is a fascinating concept to me. And again, when you take personal responsibility for anything, you can read stuff like this and you can totally like identify other people, right? Like you read something about somebody's personality that's negative and you can be like, oh yeah, I see that in this lady that just totally drives me nuts, right? But taking personal responsibility is like, but how do I see this in me? Where is this in my life so that I can work on it, right? And so while I'm reading this, there are some things that stood out to me in my life that I need to release. So I've underlined so many things. I wanted to just sort of read a couple of them to you. So she terms this woundology. This is like a term that she coins. And she said, I have since become convinced that when we define ourselves by our wounds, emotional, physical, whatever, we burden and lose our physical and spiritual energy and open ourselves up to the risk of illness. So it's really important then to not carry these wounds around with us, right? But some people, she says, have redefined their lives around their wounds in the process of accepting them. People in the world are confusing therapeutic value of self-expression with permission to manipulate others with their wounds. And I just like the way she words some things. I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. So I'm trying to see. She talks about energetic, it's almost like you have an energetic bucket, right? And you need to keep it filled. You can't go into energetic debt, right? And negativity is a lot of energetic debt. Here's a really good one. Soon we project onto others the cause of our own failure and blame them for our bleak condition. We cling to the negative events and relationships from our past as well as our present because they give us permission to see ourselves as victims and everyone else as the source of our misery. Which is it's just really good. So to put it in plain terms, she goes through, she talks about sunlight too, and she says to put it in plain terms, the effect of sunlight on our energy system is similar to that of a battery being charged. So basically, here's one of the best ones. Woundology finally amounts to a kind of welfare state of the soul, paying people dividends for blithely refusing to better their condition. So basically, like, if you're honest with it, like, this is a human condition, right? Like, we all want attention. We all want compassion. And like, I'll just take the cancer stuff as like a great example. I knew when I chose conventional medicine that I would get like this great support system because the cancer community is extremely supportive. You can go to support groups, you can go to recovery groups, you can do all these kinds of things, right? And it would be like, for some people, maybe very easy to embrace that and love it and feel, maybe have like this weird sort of, do I actually want to get well? Because maybe that's the first time in their life they've had this community, right? And it's just a natural human tendency. But it doesn't matter like how much we're attracted to that. We have to be able to say, no, I don't need this. This doesn't define me. This isn't going to be part of my life. And you need to be able to let it go, whether it's mental, emotional, physical, whatever it is, right? And there's a lot of thought too, and this is kind of what got me into the concept of energetic medicine, that cancer is a result of like stuck emotions or stuck trauma and things like that. So I was kind of like, well, if that's even a possibility, I need to think about it so that I can get in remission and stay in remission. And so I started kind of researching this stuff. And so it's just been a really interesting process of thinking through these things and learning about them. And I think it's just human nature. So one of the things that I was thinking about, so I was like, how can I identify this in my own life? Like in what is it that I have held on to that maybe I'm a little bitter about, or that I'm a little angry about, or that maybe I've identified with a little too much, that maybe now I'm looking at people through a different lens. And one of the things that really stood out to me was through my divorce years and years and years ago, the way the church treated me and all the friends that I lost and everything through that situation really impacted the way I view Christians. So I am a Christian, and I had to really separate Christians from God and the church and God, because they're completely different, and Christians and the church are human, and God obviously is perfect, right? And so we a lot of times will say, well, I was burned by this person and they're a Christian, or I was burned by this church. And so then we have like this negative association with religion, or we have this negative association with God, and it's completely not right. Well, what I did is I was fine with God and I was fine with my beliefs, but I was pretty upset with Christians in general. And I have this sort of, even as a Christian, I have a mistrust of other Christians. Like if you're not like a normal person, like if you're too Christian-y or too Jesus-y, I probably don't want to be friends with you. Because those are the people that burn me really bad. They're judgy and all this kind of stuff. Now, is there some truth in that? And all that kind of stuff, maybe, whatever. But what I kind of realized was I need to just really, really, really let that experience in my life go, because I've held on to it way too long. And I'm friends with so many Christians that are so nice, and so many Christians that really are sincere and all this kind of stuff. So I was just kind of reading through this, like, what experience in my life has actually changed, like put on the this different lens that I've looked at things through. And that was one of the experiences in my life. And honestly, I let go of a lot of stuff. There's been a lot of trauma and a lot of health stuff and a lot of things that, like, I'm just kind of like, okay, it's in my past and I've learned from it and blah, 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 blah. But that was a wound that I carried with me, and I allowed it to let me sort of put up some walls of insecurity, because I kind of assume that Christians are going to judge me because I'm not as Jesus-y. I do swear sometimes. I do all these things. I'm kind of like an opinionated female in the Christian church and all this kind of stuff. So all these things, right? So I have started going into religious situations or church situations or Christian situations with almost like this assumption that if I am who I am and I express that people are going to judge me. And I can't do that. I got to let it go. I got to give people the benefit of the doubt. It doesn't matter what happened in my life 10 years ago and how mean Christians were to me. I need to let it go. So I thought I would share that because as I was reading this book, I was like, okay, how can I apply this? Like, as opposed to seeing, okay, well, yeah, this applies to this person and this applies to this person. How does that actually apply to me? So I wanted to share that because I think, like I said, I'm only a chapter and a half in, but I have underlined so much stuff that if you are struggling with an emotional problem, or if you're physically ill, or you've been maybe chronically ill and you can't get well, I think I'm coming to believe that the emotional piece of it is so crucial. Like, we cannot ignore it if we want to get well. And so this might be a really good introduction for you. And if you are a Christian like I am, just go into it knowing that her Christian theology is not great. But if you have any questions about that, you can always reach out to me. But I thought I would share that, and just sort of an update for you. I did get my PET on Monday, and I should get the results on Friday. So thanks for following along. If you have any questions, let me know. Hope you're having an awesome day. Bye.